For 250 years, Earth had stayed quiet. The stars above spun in their silent patterns, and countless civilizations across the galaxy wondered if humanity still existed. Some believed the humans had vanished long ago, destroyed by their own wars or swallowed by the void of space. Others thought Earth had become a forgotten relic, a quiet world left to its own devices. But the truth was far more remarkable. Earth had chosen silence. After centuries of conflict, the nations, cultures, and peoples of the planet had learned the power of patience. They had seen the galaxy beyond their small world, and understood that rushing into the stars without readiness could bring only disaster. So humanity looked inward. Cities grew taller, cleaner, and smarter. Technology advanced steadily but carefully. Education, science, and art flourished. People learned to work together, and slowly the wounds of old wars began to heal. Yet humanity did not vanish from the universe. They listened. Hidden satellites floated quietly beyond the reach of most alien sensors, recording signals, mapping stars, and observing the movements of civilizations. Humans learned patience, strategy, and observation. They waited for the right moment to step back into the galactic stage, not as naive explorers, but as a species that had mastered itself. And now, the moment had come. In the year 2475, on the 250th anniversary of Earth's unification, the leaders of humanity gathered in a great hall made of glass and steel. Sunlight spilled across the polished floor, and through the towering windows one could see the ocean stretching endlessly beyond the cities. The hall was alive with anticipation. Every representative of Earth's nations, every scientist, scholar, and historian was present. The air vibrated with quiet energy. For a quarter of a millennium, the planet had been silent. Now it would speak. A young diplomat, Mira Chen, stepped forward. Her voice carried clearly across the hall, amplified by subtle technology that required no microphones. For 250 years, our people have listened. We have observed. We have learned. Today we choose to speak, not out of fear, not out of desire for conquest, but out of hope. Her words echoed beyond the walls of the hall. Satellites hidden in orbit transmitted the message across the galaxy. Every corner of space, every listening post of alien civilizations received it. The message was simple. Earth is alive. Humanity has endured. Humanity is ready to join the stars once more. Across the galaxy, reactions varied. In some council chambers, alarms blared. War fleets halted, unsure of whether this was a declaration or a greeting. Traders whispered nervously, unsure if trade routes would remain safe. Scholars studied the signal, fascinated by its clarity and calm power. And among many species who had long underestimated humanity, a slow realization began to take root. The humans were not gone. They had only been waiting. Meanwhile, on Earth, the celebrations continued. Cities projected messages into the sky, showing images of human achievement. Vast floating gardens, clean energy cities, scientific wonders, and cultural masterpieces. Children in every corner of the planet watched as the Earth spoke to the universe for the first time in centuries. Humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. Among the crowd, Mira watched silently. She knew the importance of this moment. For centuries, humans had relied on themselves. They had endured plague, war, famine, and disaster, yet every challenge had only made them stronger. And now the galaxy would see it too. Humanity's silence had been misunderstood as weakness, but it had been a choice, a quiet strategy to grow without interference. At night, when the hall emptied, Mira looked out at the stars. The sky was full of possibilities, unknown civilizations and mysteries waiting to be solved. For 250 years, Earth had stayed quiet. Now one human voice had begun to ripple across the cosmos. And with that voice, the galaxy would never be the same. But not all reactions were friendly. In the far reaches of the Andromeda cluster, a council of older dominant species debated the sudden message. One representative, a tall figure covered in glimmering scales, spoke with a voice like rolling thunder. These humans, they have been silent, yes, but silence does not make them harmless. We must prepare. Others disagreed. A smaller, softer-eyed being shook its head. Perhaps they are not a threat. Perhaps they have simply matured. Maybe they can teach us something. The debate raged on, but humanity paid it little mind. They did not seek to dominate or frighten. They sought only to be seen as they truly were, a species that had endured, learned, and grown stronger together. Back on Earth, Schools taught the history of the long silence. Students marveled at the stories of patience, resilience, and cooperation. They learned that silence was not emptiness, it was preparation. Scientists discussed new ways to reach other worlds safely. Engineers designed ships that could travel farther than ever before. And diplomats prepared to meet alien species with confidence and respect. In a quiet room beneath the bustling cities, a team of astronomers watched the stars for responses. They waited, knowing that it might take time for the galaxy to reply. And yet every twinkle in the sky felt like a question being asked. "Are you ready, Earth?" Mira smiled. "We've been ready for a long time," she whispered. And in that moment she believed it. Humanity was no longer the quiet, hidden species it had once been. It was alive, vibrant, and prepared to step forward, not with fear but with courage. The first night passed with no response, but the humans did not worry. They had waited centuries for this moment. They understood the galaxy moved slowly, and so the lights of Earth continued to shine, signals reaching ever outward, calling the stars to notice a world that had stayed quiet. Until now. By dawn, cities across the planet reflected the soft glow of a new day. Humans went about their work, some unaware of the historic transmission that was already changing alien perceptions across countless worlds. Farmers tended fields, children played in parks, scientists continued experiments, and diplomats prepared reports. Life on Earth had not stopped. It had grown stronger, smarter, and ready for the challenge of the wider universe. In the years to come, the galaxy would remember the day humanity spoke. For now, the first ripple had begun, and though the stars were vast and distant, one thing was certain: Earth's voice would not be ignored. The moment humanity's message traveled across the stars, the galaxy reacted in ways no one had expected. Signals bounced between systems, reaching the ears of alien civilizations that had long watched Earth in silence. Some stopped in their tracks, their fleets pausing mid-orbit, unsure whether the message was a greeting, a challenge, or a warning. In the council chambers of a distant star system, representatives of multiple planets gathered. The room was vast, shaped like a crystal dome that reflected the starlight outside. Council members of every shape, color, and size debated the significance of Earth's voice. Some were tall, with spindly limbs and translucent skin. Others were compact and covered in armor-like plates. Yet all shared the same emotion: surprise. "The humans speak," said one elder, his voice low and trembling. "After centuries of silence, they finally speak. But why now? And what do they want?" A younger representative, with glowing eyes that pulsed in rhythm with her thoughts, replied, "I do not think they wish to harm us." The message was calm, clear, and full of purpose, yet I cannot ignore the possibility. Silence hides strength, and their endurance alone suggests power we cannot measure. Elsewhere, in a trade hub orbiting a gas giant, merchants whispered among themselves. "The humans are back," one trader said, his antennae twitching nervously. "If they are as clever as rumors claim, they may upset the balance of power." Not all reactions were fear. In quiet observatories, scholars and historians of many species studied the transmission. They marveled at the precision of humanity's communication. Unlike most messages in the galaxy, it was not filled with threats, demands, or endless boastful claims. Instead, it carried clarity and conviction. Every word was measured, every phrase carefully chosen. It told of survival, growth, and a readiness to join the greater community of stars. Some council members saw hope where others saw danger. "Perhaps they can teach us something," a soft-voiced delegate said, her skin shimmering like liquid metal. "Perhaps humanity's endurance is a lesson for all civilizations that have suffered. Perhaps we have underestimated them for too long." But fear is often louder than hope. In military sectors, fleets that had not moved for centuries reactivated. Warships that were once mothballed began drills. Reports of unusual energy signatures near Earth made commanders suspicious. They interpreted humanity's calm voice as a mask for hidden strength. "We cannot take risks," one admiral growled. "If they are patient enough to wait centuries, imagine what they could do if provoked. We must prepare." Back on Earth, the planet remained unaware of much of the galaxy's reaction. People went about their lives with careful excitement. Children played in parks while scientists observed signals from deep space. Farmers worked the land, engineers designed new communication arrays, and diplomats began drafting messages to respond to potential contacts. Every citizen felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had chosen to speak, and now it was being heard, even if the galaxy did not yet fully understand. Mira Chen, the diplomat who had helped craft the first message, stood in her office overlooking the capital city. She watched the lights flicker in the distance, reflecting a world alive and confident. "They are listening," she murmured. "They may fear us, but they cannot ignore us. And we will show them that fear is unnecessary." Her assistant, a young man named Aaron, nodded. "Some may misunderstand us," he said. "They might expect aggression. They might think silence was weakness. But they will learn. Humanity has always been strong in ways others cannot see." Mira smiled. "Exactly. We survived everything Earth threw at us. And now we face a galaxy that assumes we are weak. It will be enlightening for them to realize otherwise." While humans worked and prepared, the first signs of change appeared across nearby star systems. Planets that had once looked to older empires for guidance began to question their loyalty. Independent systems, previously quiet and obedient, started sharing rumors of Earth's message. The words were simple, but their effect was profound. Humanity was alive, united, and capable. For some species, it ignited hope. For others, unease. Even among the most powerful civilizations, councils debated. "We have underestimated humans for far too long," one representative admitted. Their silence was a lesson. They have learned patience, strategy, and resilience. If we provoke them, we risk awakening a force beyond our control. An older member of the council, a being with crystalline wings and deep-set eyes, responded, "Or perhaps they awaken hope where there was none." Their words inspire courage, and we may see alliances we never imagined. Perhaps humanity's return is not a threat, but a gift. Back on Earth, the message continued to travel. Hidden satellites relayed it farther into the galaxy, reaching even the systems that humans had never studied closely. Every transmission was repeated with care, ensuring clarity and precision. Humanity's voice was calm, patient, and purposeful. It was a voice that demanded attention not through violence, but through proof of endurance, intelligence, and unity. In the skies above the planet, unmanned observation drones drifted silently. They recorded the faint movements of alien fleets and council ships, noting which species reacted with fear and which with curiosity. Analysts on Earth studied the patterns carefully. Every reaction was a piece of data, a small clue about how the galaxy functioned and how humans might navigate it. Meanwhile, across the stars, whispers began. "The humans speak," one alien scholar said softly. "We have long assumed them gone. Yet here they are, alive, aware, and stronger than we imagined." Others laughed nervously. "Stronger? They are only one planet," a warrior argued. "One planet with simple, fragile bodies. How can they pose a real threat?" But even as doubts were raised, the truth became harder to ignore. Humans had endured every natural disaster, every conflict, and every limitation imposed by their world. And now they had waited centuries to step forward at the right moment. That patience, that understanding of timing and strategy, was a power that few alien species had ever seen. On Earth, Mira continued her work. She prepared the second message not as a warning, but as an introduction to diplomacy. It would be sent to those civilizations curious enough to respond, and it would carry the same tone as the first. Calm, confident, and full of purpose. Humanity's approach was clear. No aggression, no arrogance, only a clear presentation of who they were and what they could offer. The galaxy was listening, and reactions were spreading like ripples across a cosmic pond. Fear, curiosity, hope, and wonder all mixed together in ways that made every civilization reconsider its assumptions about the quiet planet at the edge of the Milky Way. By the end of the first galactic day, Earth had already become a topic of conversation in thousands of star systems. Messages passed between empires and independent systems alike. Some feared what might come. Others hoped. But all knew one thing: Earth had returned. Humanity had spoken. And for a species that had been silent for centuries, the impact was immediate, profound, and undeniable. Mira looked up at the night sky once more, filled with countless stars and unknown worlds. "They hear us," she whispered, "and they will remember us." Even as fear and excitement spread, humanity continued its quiet work, studying, learning, and preparing for the inevitable first contact. For 250 years, Earth had been silent, but now, as the galaxy stirred in response to humanity's words, it became clear silence had been a choice, patience had been a strategy, And the humans were ready to face the stars as they had always been, resilient, united and unafraid, and somewhere far across the galaxy, a fleet of alien ships paused in orbit, unsure what to do next. The humans had spoken, and that simple act, one voice, one planet, one species, had begun to change the galaxy forever. The galaxy had been watching for centuries, and now, after the first human message traveled across space, curiosity could no longer be contained. Several civilizations decided to act. They selected diplomats, scholars, and envoys, creatures of all shapes, sizes, and abilities to travel to Earth. They did not come with warships or weapons of conquest. They came to see for themselves what the humans had become. The first delegation arrived quietly, slipping into orbit above the blue planet without fanfare. Their ships were sleek and strange, built for speed and observation. They carried no armaments, only devices for communication, sensors for scanning, and small gifts as signs of respect. From orbit, they could see Earth in full splendor, oceans stretching endlessly, cities gleaming with light, forests thriving, and human-made machines moving with quiet efficiency. Inside the control room of one of the alien ships, Commander Valor adjusted his sensory feeds. His many eyes blinked in unison as he studied the planet. "It is more vibrant than records suggested," he said, his voice vibrating with subtle tones that conveyed both awe and caution. "The humans, they are thriving. They have survived. And more than that, they have organized, united, and mastered their environment." His second in command, a smaller being with translucent skin and tendrils that floated gently in zero gravity, nodded. "I do not detect hostility, but patience and preparation can hide great strength. We must approach carefully." Meanwhile, on Earth, Mira Chen and the team of diplomats monitored incoming signals. They had anticipated this moment for years. Humanity's first contact with another civilization in centuries required care, clarity, and courage. They had trained for diplomacy, for negotiation, and for demonstrating that Earth meant no harm. When the alien delegation entered communication range, the humans initiated contact. The message was simple, respectful, and calm. "Welcome to Earth. We are ready to meet and learn from one another." The alien ship paused, and then a transmission came back. The voice, or signal rather, for the beings communicated with light, vibration, and subtle shifts in energy, carried curiosity and caution in equal measure. "We have observed your world. Your patience is remarkable. We come seeking understanding." In the capital city, humans prepared a reception for the visitors. The landing site was a vast open field near a shimmering lake, surrounded by trees and tall buildings. Platforms were set up for observation and communication, and humans stood ready to welcome the delegates with both caution and confidence. When the alien ships descended, the spectacle was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Light rippled across their surfaces, shifting colors as the ships moved. Strange sounds and vibrations filled the air, but none of them were threatening. The humans remained calm. They had spent centuries preparing for this moment. The first alien stepped onto the platform. It was taller than any human, with limbs that moved gracefully and a body that shimmered in translucent colors. Despite its unusual appearance, there was a quiet intelligence in its movements. The humans bowed in respect, and the alien inclined its head in acknowledgement. Mira stepped forward, her heart steady. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "We are honored by your presence. For centuries, humanity has watched the stars. We have learned, grown, and prepared. Today we meet not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals seeking understanding." The alien nodded. "We did not come to fight," it said through the translation devices. "We came to see if the humans are as capable as your message suggests, and you are." The humans led the delegation across the carefully arranged area. Machines hovered, displaying holographic projections of Earth's history, its achievements, and its knowledge of the stars. The aliens observed everything with wide eyes, or the equivalent of eyes. Every detail, every fact, every carefully crafted display reflected humanity's resilience, intelligence, and patience. During the tour, one of the younger humans asked the alien, "What did you expect when you came here?" The alien paused. "I expected disorder, conflict, weakness. I expected a species that had survived but not thrived. What I see is something far different. You are organized, united, and capable of great thought. You are remarkable." Mira smiled. "We have endured much. Our world taught us patience. We have learned from our failures and built ourselves stronger. Silence was our choice, not our weakness. The aliens observed the human cities, their technology, and the care with which the planet was maintained. They were especially struck by the balance humans had achieved. Technology advanced without destroying nature. Growth coexisted with preservation, and progress had not come at the expense of compassion. At the end of the day, both humans and aliens gathered for a formal meeting. The platform was circular, with humans and delegates facing each other. Mira spoke first. We have watched the stars. We have learned from the galaxy. And now we step forward. We seek knowledge, friendship, and understanding. We do not seek war, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. We are patient, but we are not weak, the alien delegate responded thoughtfully. Your words are honest. Your presence confirms your message. We underestimated humans. Silence has hidden not weakness, but strength. Patience has taught us lessons you could not yet understand. You are not the species we thought you were. Other members of the delegation nodded in agreement. They began to discuss ways to establish communication, trade, and shared research between Earth and their civilizations. The conversations were careful, respectful, and deliberate. Both sides recognized the historic importance of this first contact. That night, as the alien ships departed to orbit and observe Earth further, Mira watched from the platform. She felt a sense of accomplishment, but also awareness. This was only the beginning. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were alive, intelligent, and capable, but the larger universe held unknown challenges and opportunities. On the alien ships, discussions continued. Some members of the delegation were inspired by what they had seen. They began sending reports back to their home systems, praising humanity's resilience, intelligence, and courage. Others remained cautious, warning that a species capable of centuries of careful planning could be unpredictable. Back on Earth, preparations began for further communication. Scientists worked to expand observation networks. Diplomats drafted guidelines for future meetings. And educators taught young humans about the importance of patience, courage, and understanding. Humanity had taken the first step into the wider galaxy, and they intended to do so wisely. As Mira looked up at the night sky, dotted with stars and distant alien vessels, she whispered, "We have made our first impression. Now we will continue to show who we are, not as conquerors, but as humans. We are patient, we are strong, and we will be heard." Somewhere across the galaxy, alien civilizations continued to react to Earth's first contact. Some were impressed, some were cautious, and some were inspired to reconsider their own paths. Humanity's words, actions, and presence had begun to ripple outward, creating waves of curiosity, hope, and even admiration. It was a beginning unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. A planet that had been silent for 250 years had stepped into the stars, not with warships or weapons, but with intelligence, patience, and courage. The first meeting was over, but the story was only starting. For Earth, silence had ended. For the galaxy, curiosity had begun, and for humanity, the future was wide open, a stage waiting to be filled with the actions, words, and choices of a species that had endured, prepared, and finally spoken. The Galactic Council had convened in a massive station orbiting a bright young star. Species from across the galaxy had gathered, representatives of countless civilizations, each curious, cautious, or even fearful of the sudden emergence of Earth's message. Never before had a planet remained silent for so long, only to speak with such clarity and confidence. Humanity's delegation, led by Mira Chen, entered the chamber with calm determination. The room was enormous, its walls shimmering with light, displaying the insignias of thousands of species. The council members watched in silence as humans approached the central platform, unarmed, their posture steady, their expressions clear. Mira stepped forward and began to speak. Her words were measured, honest, and full of purpose. For 250 years, Earth remained quiet. Some believed our silence meant weakness. Others assumed we had vanished. The truth is, humanity chose patience. We chose to grow, to learn, and to understand the galaxy before making our voice heard. A murmur ran through the council. Many had expected a species that might boast of power or demand recognition. Instead, the humans spoke of survival, learning, and readiness. Their calm confidence carried weight that words alone rarely could. Mira continued. We have endured countless challenges, plagues, wars, natural disasters, and the limits of our own world. Each trial taught us resilience. Each struggle strengthened our unity. We did not conquer our planet alone, but we did master our challenges together. We are prepared to step into the wider galaxy, not as aggressors, but as partners, allies, and learners. The council members exchanged glances. Some were impressed. Some were skeptical. Others whispered to each other, trying to reconcile centuries of assumptions with the new reality before them. Humanity, quiet for so long, now radiated a presence that could not be ignored. One of the elder council members, a tall being with crystalline wings, leaned forward. "You speak of endurance and patience, but why now? Why emerge after centuries of silence?" Mira met the elder's gaze. "Because the galaxy is at a turning point. Many systems face oppression, others struggle with conflict and fear. Humanity has grown strong enough to offer guidance, knowledge, and friendship. We waited, not to hide, but to ensure that when we spoke, we could speak with clarity and purpose. The time is now, not because it is convenient, but because it is necessary." Whispers spread across the chamber. Humans did not threaten, but their words carried undeniable strength. Their voice was a reminder that silence did not equal weakness. Their patience had been a strategy, and now it gave them power greater than fleets or weapons ever could. Among the council, delegates from oppressed or independent systems began to feel hope stir. They had long lived under fear of larger empires or stronger civilizations, but the humans' words reminded them that a species could endure, grow, and choose its own moment to act. The lesson was clear. Patience, courage, and unity were weapons as effective as any fleet. A young delegate from a small, rocky world whispered to a colleague, "We have underestimated humans for too long. Look at them. They speak with honesty, yet their words carry more strength than armies. Perhaps the galaxy can change." Other council members were less impressed. Some feared that humans' growing presence would disrupt established power structures. "Do not be fooled," a hardened warrior from a dominant system growled. "They are one planet. They may inspire hope, but they are fragile. Their bodies are weak compared to ours. Their technology is impressive, but it cannot match the fleets of centuries-old empires." Yet even the warriors could not ignore the effect of the humans' words. Across the council, a quiet energy began to shift. Systems that had once accepted oppression without question now exchanged glances, murmured quietly, and began to consider alternatives. Humanity's speech had ignited curiosity, courage, and even rebellion, not through force but through the power of conviction. Mira continued, her voice unwavering. "Humanity does not come to dominate. We do not come to demand allegiance. We come to share knowledge, to offer cooperation, and to stand with those who seek freedom, understanding, and peace. Our silence was a choice. Our endurance was our preparation. And our words now carry the hope of a species that has learned its lessons and stands ready to contribute to the galaxy as equals." She paused, letting her words settle across the council. The room was still. Even those who had been skeptical felt the weight of what had been said. Humanity had demonstrated that power was not measured in fleets or weapons alone. Power could also be measured in patience and endurance, in the ability to rise above conflict and speak truth with confidence. Outside the council chamber, messages from Earth had already begun to spread. Satellites and communications networks carried recordings of the speech to systems that had never heard a human voice before. In distant star systems, beings listened, awed by the clarity and courage of a species that had remained silent for centuries. Some were inspired, some were shaken, but all understood one thing: humanity had returned. On a distant moon, a young scientist from a water-covered planet listened intently. "They speak with honesty and confidence," she said. "But it is not arrogance, it is strength. We can learn from them. Perhaps they will show us how to endure without fear." Meanwhile, a group of military leaders on a heavily fortified world debated privately. "We cannot ignore them," one commander said. "A species capable of surviving centuries of isolation, growing stronger each year and choosing their moment to act. That is not weak. If provoked, they could become a force beyond our imagination." Yet not all reactions were of fear. Across the galaxy, oppressed planets and independent systems began quietly sending their own messages to Earth. They sought guidance, friendship, and knowledge. They had heard humanity's words, and in them they saw hope, a chance to rise above fear and oppression. Mira and her team worked tirelessly to respond. Humans crafted messages not of superiority, but of cooperation. They offered knowledge, technology, and shared understanding, making it clear that Earth's return was not a threat, but a gift of perspective. Humanity's patience and careful preparation now paid off, as the galaxy began to see them not as a silent planet, but as a beacon of resilience and hope. In the weeks that followed, reports came from distant systems. Revolts once considered impossible gained momentum. Independent coalitions formed. Old alliances shifted as planets reconsidered their positions. Humanity's words had created ripples, changing the flow of galactic history without firing a single shot. In the council chamber, the elder with crystalline wings spoke again. Perhaps we have misunderstood the meaning of strength. Perhaps it is not fleets or armies alone that shape the galaxy, but the courage to endure, the wisdom to wait, and the clarity to speak at the right moment. Mira nodded. That is humanity's lesson. We have endured, we have learned, and now we speak. Our words are not weapons, but they carry power, and that power lies in their ability to inspire, to teach, and to ignite hope where fear once reigned. As the council adjourned, delegates carried the message back to their systems. Humans returned to their ships, knowing that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had been shaken, not by force, but by the truth that one planet, one species could endure, grow, and choose its moment to speak with purpose. Back on Earth, the people watched the stars with anticipation. Humanity had stepped into the wider galaxy with confidence and clarity. They had shown that silence was not weakness, patience was not fear, and endurance was not stagnation. The galaxy was listening, learning, and changing because of them. Mira looked up at the night sky once more, filled with distant stars and the quiet hum of alien vessels orbiting the planet. She whispered, "We have spoken. And now the stars themselves will never be the same." Somewhere across countless worlds, civilizations began to shift. Empires reconsidered old strategies, small planets found courage, and throughout the galaxy the realization spread. Humans were no longer a silent species. They were present, powerful, and their words carried a force unlike any weapon. For the first time in 250 years, the universe truly understood Earth. Humanity had endured. Humanity had learned. And now, humanity had spoken. The words that had begun as a simple message from a single planet were shaking the stars, and nothing in the galaxy would ever look at Earth the same way again. The galaxy was changing. The words of humanity, carefully crafted and patiently delivered, had traveled far beyond what anyone had expected. Systems that had long accepted oppression now spoke of freedom. Independent planets began sharing knowledge openly, inspired by Earth's example. Even some empires reconsidered old policies, realizing that a patient, united, and intelligent species could shift the balance of power without firing a single weapon. On Earth, life continued, but with a new sense of purpose. Humans moved with quiet confidence, knowing that their words had begun to ripple across the stars. Cities were brighter, not from simple technology, but from the energy of hope. People smiled more openly, worked together more closely, and taught their children about patience, endurance, and unity. Humanity's long silence had been a lesson, and now, the lesson had reached the galaxy. Mira Chen walked along the elevated walkways of the capital city, watching children play in the parks below. She remembered the first message, the first transmissions, the first alien delegation, and now the first tremors of real change were visible across countless star systems. She felt pride, but also humility. Humanity had survived not because they were the strongest physically, but because they had endured, learned, and chosen the right moment to speak. In the Galactic Council, discussions continued. Some species were cautious, unsure how to react to a species that had been silent for centuries. Others were inspired, feeling courage they had never felt before. Humans had shown that strength could take many forms, not only in weapons or fleets, but in patience, resilience, and clarity of purpose. On a remote moon, a small delegation of scientists from several planets watched messages from Earth. They had long doubted that humans were anything special, but now they saw a species that had survived natural disasters, wars, and centuries of isolation. They saw a species that had grown stronger through cooperation, learning, and careful planning. and they realized that humans were capable of inspiring entire civilizations simply by being themselves. In orbit above Earth, alien ships monitored and learned. Some fleets were cautious, keeping distance while analyzing the planet's technological and social systems. Others sent envoys to Earth seeking cooperation, trade, and guidance. All of them recognized one truth: the humans' endurance, intelligence, and patience had created a presence far larger than any fleet could have. Back on Earth, Mira prepared for the next step. Humanity would not simply speak. They would act with clarity, intelligence, and care. Plans were made to establish research centers in orbit, cooperative academies with alien civilizations, and shared knowledge networks. Every initiative reflected humanity's approach: strength through patience, wisdom through learning, and leadership through example. A council of human scientists gathered one evening to discuss the changes in the galaxy. "We have become a symbol," one said, "not because we are violent or dominating, but because we endured. Others see our patience and strength, and they feel hope. That is power beyond weapons." Another scientist nodded. "Yes, and it shows that influence is not always force. It can be knowledge, patience, and example. We can help the galaxy become better without conquering it. That is humanity's gift." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, smaller systems began forming alliances inspired by Earth. Planets long isolated from one another shared resources, knowledge, and culture. Even species that had once feared the galaxy's dominant empires found courage to act for themselves. Humanity's example had given them the belief that change was possible. In one distant system, a small group of beings whispered among themselves, "The humans are not like other species. They speak, and yet the words carry strength. They endure, and yet their patience becomes power. We must observe carefully, but we should also learn." Back on Earth, Mira watched the night sky, stars stretching infinitely. "We have made our mark," she said quietly. "Not through war, not through fear, but through endurance, patience, and our words. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will remember Earth, not for its battles, but for its voice." And the galaxy did remember. Across star systems, humans became known as the world that spoke. They were no longer just a quiet planet. They were a symbol of resilience, patience, and hope. They had endured for centuries, and now their voice carried farther than any weapon, farther than any fleet, reaching the hearts and minds of countless civilizations. Trade routes opened with humans as trusted partners. Research missions were planned jointly with alien species. Cultural exchanges began with music, art, and literature crossing systems. Humanity's presence became a stabilizing, inspiring force, not because of conquest, but because of endurance and intelligence. Even empires that had once been rigid in their control began to shift policies, influenced by the example of Earth. Peaceful collaboration became possible where it had once seemed impossible. And through it all, humans remained patient, careful, and wise. They understood that real influence comes not from power alone, but from example and action. Mira walked through the capital one evening, reflecting on the journey. 250 years of silence had brought them here, and the galaxy had changed in ways that could not have been predicted. Humans had proven that patience could become power, endurance could become influence, and words could carry as much force as fleets. She paused at a balcony, looking out at the stars and distant alien ships orbiting quietly. "We are no longer silent," she said softly. "We have been heard. And because of that, the galaxy is beginning to change." Children on the streets below waved up at her, unaware of the history they were living through, yet inspired by it all the same. Humanity had become a beacon, a symbol of what patience, intelligence, and courage could achieve. The galaxy had learned that one species, united and wise, could awaken hope and change without striking a single blow. As dawn broke across Earth, Mira smiled. The planet was alive, vibrant, and connected to the stars in ways that had been impossible for centuries. Humanity had stepped forward not through force or fear, but through endurance, intelligence, and the courage to speak when the time was right. Somewhere, across countless star systems, civilizations continued to change. The influence of humanity's words spread quietly and steadily, reshaping alliances, inspiring courage, and igniting hope. Humanity had become more than a planet. They had become a symbol, a teacher, and a reminder that patience, endurance, and clarity of purpose could shake the stars themselves. Mira looked up at the heavens one last time. "We endured," she whispered. "We learned, we spoke, and now we are a part of the galaxy, ready to help it grow, to guide it, and to shine as a light for those who need hope. The universe will never forget Earth because we chose to speak, and our words carried farther than any weapon ever could." And so, humanity's long silence ended. Their voice became a ripple that reshaped the galaxy, proving that strength is not always measured in fleets or weapons, but in patience, endurance, courage, and the power of words. The stars had been shaken, not by war but by a species that had waited, learned, and finally spoken. The galaxy was no longer the same. Humanity was no longer silent, and a new dawn had begun, not just for Earth but for countless worlds across the stars.